You use barrels that had whiskey inside, and you use also barrels that had some other things like wine.
We consume songs differently when you can change songs with the click of a button.
Like this is nostalgia pure.
It's the most exciting device I have had in the last 4 years. Hola, bienvenidos a la primera edición del podcast de VermutNStuff, grabando desde la bonita ciudad de Graz, en Austria. Y aquí acompañándome tengo a mi compañero y amigo, Simon. Vamos a cambiar ahora al inglés, ya que él es austríaco y nuestra lengua común es el inglés. Simon, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thanks, and thank you for this invitation today.
I'm glad that you could make it. So we have several very nice topics. We will start with schnapps and whiskey production. I think you have a lot of information to share with us. And then we will move into the Steam Deck, which I believe it's the first time that you will be experiencing it. And then we will end with a conversation about physical media.
Oh, this looks quite interesting, and I'm already a bit thirsty. So let's get started.
I got this appetizer. It's called Canonita. It's coming from Mallorca. Are you familiar with Mallorca?
Oh yes, I have already been there for 2 days only, but it was quite a nice time.
Okay, so let's try it out. It will be the first time for me also. So let's see if it's worth it.
Thank you. I'm already looking forward to taste this.
So this is made with oranges. I think you were checking the label before.
Yeah, actually I checked the label because I also never saw this bottle, and it is quite interesting. It looks orange. Let's smell it first before we taste it. Usually if you would like to taste some wine or some spirits, then you first sniff, you go with the nose inside, but not too deep. If there's too much alcohol, then you might get overwhelmed by the alcohol fumes. So maybe you just sniff a bit before you taste it. Prost!
Prost! It's quite strong.
Yeah?
But it definitely tastes like oranges.
Actually, this is quite a nice aperitif, I would say. As you say, it tastes like oranges, but not too strong. It's not a dominant flavor. I would say it's a bit sweet, not too much, but it has a light flavor. What we might need to add here now, we don't taste it pure.
Yeah, so you mean that it's already a little bit diluted with the ice? Or...
Exactly. Yeah. But as I read on the label, this is how you should serve it. Actually, you should use some ice cubes, so serve it on the rocks, as we call it. And I think this is quite a nice taste because it is a fresh taste, in my opinion. It's not too strong. It's like, yeah, an aperitif, a classical one. But let me just take another sip. Definitely, I might also use it for like a how do you call it, like a deep digestive after the dinner, maybe sitting outside in a nice warm summer evening, having this after dinner would also be a thing, because it's not too strong, it's not too dominant, it's more something smooth.
Yeah, actually I'm not even sure if this is like a very traditional drink, but so I have no idea. Maybe this is something relatively new, to be honest. So I'm just gonna read the name again. It's called Canonita de Mallorca, Aperitivo de Naranjas. It's a good way to start. So you seem to know a bit about spirits and alcohol in general, but I know that you have been actually brewing your own stuff, right? For example, I do believe that you do, well, I don't believe it, I actually know it 100% because I was there once with you invited me, that you, with your uncle, you prepare some schnapps, is that correct?
You're right, you have been there, you saw the process, how it's doing, and actually, yes, we are producing spirits. So this is a family tradition already since, I don't know, like the past 50 years or something. And now this year or let's say it like that, I will take over this from my grandfather. Because, yeah, he wants to retire this Schnapsbrennen, how it's called in German. So I will take this over now.
But it's a rather common thing, right? I believe there are quite a few Austrians which actually brew their own schnapps.
Exactly, you are completely right. This is a special thing here in Austria, also sometimes applies to Germany, but here the license you get quite easily. If you have a big garden, some trees with some apples or stuff like this, some fruit, then you can obtain a license and distill your own alcohol quite easy. I would say quite easy because it's not that you can do it without any license.
So is it a matter of quantity or what is the limitation regarding with this license?
This is a matter of the quantity. Like if I have a garden with 10 trees, apple trees or something, then I'm only allowed for a certain amount of alcohol. And this is one time it is licensed in that way. So maybe let's say 50 liters of pure alcohol I can make per year. If my garden is bigger, I can make more per year, but I also need to pay more taxes. The taxes, I just pay the correct amount which I in the end made out of.
I see. Okay, so you mean that it is dependent to the amount of land that you own, let's say, with the number of trees. For example, if we are talking about apple schnapps, but then it's also related to the quantity that you actually output. So for example, if you have a bad year, let's say, and you are producing half of what you were expecting, then you also pay less. So it's really proportional to your output.
Yes, it works like this. So the size of your garden or the amount of your trees, it limits the maximum amount you are allowed to produce. But what you pay in taxes, it depends on the amount of alcohol you were able to obtain out of this fruit.
Nice. So how does the process start? Do you normally use apples, as I said, or is it common to use something else?
Yeah, apple is quite common here in Austria to use, but you could also go for the plum, for example. This is also a very traditional thing here. Yeah, how do you do this? This is quite an interesting process. So first of all, you would pick just the nice apples or the nice fruit. So if it's somehow moldy or if it's even still green or something, then you would not take them. So just take the really good fruits. This is very important. I'll tell you later why. So first of all, you need to crush the apple. So you need to crush the fruit. So the apple it's more hard than a plum. So the apple need to be crushed. The plum might not be. So this you could maybe use already like it is. So you go there, crush the apple, put those in a big barrel, plastic barrel. It's very important. We take a 60-liter barrel and fill it up. Then you seal it, and you have a small valve there, so a small valve where you put water inside. So when the fermentation process starts, sugar in the fruit is then converted into alcohol and CO2 gas. And you need this valve that the gas can pass out. Okay,
but you also said that you put some water in it. Is that in the valve? Is like some kind of filter for the...
No, this is called an air lock. So you have it like this, that the CO2 gas can pass through, but no oxygen can go inside the barrel. And yeah, this fermentation is done by the yeast. Normally in the nature there's enough yeast on the fruit, so the fermentation starts itself. But you normally should even add some additional yeast just to be sure that all the sugar is converted into alcohol.
So what is this yeast exactly? Are we talking about some kind of powder, or what is this yeast?
This is basically a kind of a mushroom.
I would say. Wow.
And it's everywhere. So it's in the air we are breathing right now. It's on the surfaces. It's quite everywhere. And you can add this, like you said, as a powder, but you can also add it as a liquid. You usually buy them in some brewery store or whatever.
Okay, and you put that inside with the apples themselves?
Exactly.
Or I see. Okay.
Exactly.
So now we have our apples, we have them inside our plastic barrels, right? You mentioned it's important. And we have our valve, we have our water lock, and we might have also mixed some yeast inside. Then I guess that this has to stay for some time, right?
Exactly. So usually it is already affecting in the first week. It starts already, but we usually have it up till 6 weeks. 6 weeks.
Oh, okay, it's not that much.
No, it's quite, in this time, let's say like that, the most of the sugar is already converted into alcohol. You could put it some more weeks, of course. A bit of more alcohol will be then converted.
I see.
But it could be that the quality is already dropping a bit. So
I see.
Not having it too long.
So this is kind of, I'm trying to picture how the year looks like, right? And I guess this is something you do in spring, summer, when you pick the apples. And then you just wait for, let's say, a couple of months, tops. And then in October, I don't know, September, maybe that's when you actually brew the schnapps. Or is that more or less how it works?
Yes, you're right. So we pick the apple in maybe September, I don't know, or in late of August, the plum, for example. Then after 6 weeks, this will be then, somewhere in October. So when the autumn begins, we are able then to distill what we have obtained. And I was talking about the plastic barrels. It has a reason, because plastic is not that expensive and it is neutral. So if you use some metal, it needs to be stainless steel. Otherwise, the metal or the acids inside are somehow reacting with the metal.
I see. And I guess the steel barrels would be also more expensive, right? Than
You're
the
right.
Plastic ones.
Especially if we have amounts of 200 to 300 liter of
Clear.
mash, it's going to be expensive. I mean, it's a one-time purchase, of course, but still, those barrels are heavy and.
Yeah, that's also right. I did not think about that, but because you need to store them once you're not using them. Okay, so we have our barrels. 6 weeks have passed. What's next?
And now the most interesting stuff happens, the distilling process. So the distilling process, I explained to you in a short way, it's just a physical process where you extract the alcohol out of the mash, and you just, let's say like, you separate the water and the alcohol. And how are you doing this? So we have our special our distilling equipment. So first of all, we put the mash inside, and then now we heat it up. It's still a very old-fashioned copper distill, which is fired by wood.
Copper, I see.
Yeah, the copper is quite important, because if you have a distill out of stainless steel or out of glass, whatever other material, the schnapps you get out, you can't drink it, because there are some sulfuric processes inside happening during the fermentation, and the copper is reducing those sulfuric acids, or whatever they are called, and so you definitely need to have this copper. Otherwise, the taste would be affected quite badly.
So I guess that this is also rising this initial price that you have to pay for the whole thing, right? So one thing was the barrels, of course, and then we have the how do you call it again? This copper?
Distill.
The distill item itself. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so now we heat it up, and when the heat is increasing, the alcohol is evaporating earlier, or at an earlier temperature or lower temperature than the water is evaporating. So if we reach some temperatures of the mash with 80-85 degrees Celsius, the alcohol is beginning to evaporate, and those fumes are now guided through a copper pipe into the cooler. The cooler is basically just a coil of a stainless steel pipe in a big water barrel with cold water.
Yeah, of course, yes.
And there the fumes of the alcohol are condensing, and then you're collecting what you get out of it. So you just need to know when to stop, because the longer you cook your mash, at some point the alcohol is mainly extracted, and then more and more water will start to evaporate. You won't have this. You would not like to have this. So you need to stop at some certain point. We do it by measuring the alcohol percentage. So the amount of alcohol
in the output.
In the output, okay. Yeah. So the strength of the output, and then we know when to stop. And now we have collected the first
batch, or
the first batch. Thank you. And this is called the Raubrand. You could drink it. It does not taste good. I mean, it depends a bit on the distill, but the normal distill, like we have it, the single pot, you need to distill it twice. So, which means we collect everything, and then when we had processed all of our mash barrels, we collect all the alcohol from the first distilling together, and this is then filled in the distill once more, and then we heat it up once more, but this time quite slow, because we just want to have the finest alcohol to get out.
I see. So this is really a second process once you have gone through, I don't know, however many barrels you actually have, right? So this happens afterwards.
You are right. And this is called the second distilling process, the Feinbrand. This is then already what is tasting good.
Good. Now it just came to my mind, right? Because I think this is an important part of the whole process, that you actually need to be able to remove one of the alcohols, right? Because otherwise you could go blind. When is that done, and how do you actually check if this type of alcohol, which I don't remember the name of right now, is in your liquid?
So this is quite an important step, and this is happening during the fermentation, and especially if you have some bad fruit inside. If you have fruit that is a bit moldy or whatever.
Okay, so it could be that sorry for interrupting. So it could be that if your fruit is perfect, that you get none or very little of how is it called, this alcohol that you have to avoid?
This is methylene.
Methanol.
Methylene, yeah, You're right. You can decrease the amount, but not to zero. So you will have it. You will still have it. But we are talking about quite not that much. So when we distill like 30 liters of so we collected in the first distilling process, we collected 30 liters of
it's fine already, or
no,
the raw,
the raw alcohol. And when we distill this 30 liters again, half a liter we need to to put away.
Okay.
But there's one very important thing. Yeah, this is quite poisonous. So if you drink this, it's called the Vorlauf. So it's the alcohol that evaporates earlier. So the methanol evaporates at a lower temperature than the drinkable ethanol. And this methanol is poisonous. You can go blind. You could die also if you drink too much. So what you should avoid to drink the very first alcohol that is coming out. But to be honest, it's not easy to drink that. It has alcohol percentage like, I don't know, 98% in our case. So it is quite high percentage. Why do people get blind still? This is something very special. So first of all, this doesn't happen in Austria at all, because I need to specify this a bit. It can happen, yes, if you drink this. But this you need to drink by accident. What would happen if I don't throw this away and I collect it? I collect it together with all the alcohol I'm distilling in the second time, so in the Feinbrand. So I'm not pouring it away. I'm just also mixing it inside. Then also nothing will happen. Because you need to think, if you have a wine is also created by a fermentation of the grapes. And also there, the methanol is created, but it is not concentrated.
Exactly. So at the end, it's about the proportion, right?
Right.
So if you have some methanol mixed in a much bigger quantity of ethanol, then it's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you hear something in another country that people died because of some bad distilled alcohol, it's not because of too much methanol, because you cannot even produce that much, but it's because they mixed something inside. Maybe they mixed some heavier alcohols like glycerine, Licor, whatever this is called in English, sorry. Or they even bought cheap methanol because you can use it as a fuel.
I see, okay, fine. Yeah, good. Then are we at the end of the process, or is there something more?
We are nearly at the end of this process now. What we are doing now is, the first alcohol that is coming out is, you need to cut it to throw it away, but you still need to taste the next half liter if it tastes good, because it could be that there are some aromatic things inside which doesn't taste good. So basically, this you also need to taste. And then you collect everything together, and in the end you get maybe, 10 liters out of it, depending on the sugar of the fruit, because if the fruit has more sugar, more alcohol is then produced, and in the end you know how much you get out of it. And let's just say we have 10 liters of alcohol collected now. So
just to have an idea, how many apple trees are we talking about to get those 10 liters? Or let's say, how much schnapps do you produce normally per year?
Really depending on the year. You cannot even say this, because last year we did not have anything. Okay. There was not a single apple.
Oh wow.
This year it already looks quite good. I mean, we are now recording this in April, so if we look outside, the trees are now with a lot of how is this called? A lot of flowers. So they are blooming quite well. And this year it looks that we could have a good year. We don't know it yet, but around between 15 and 30 liters of schnapps we get out of our trees. We do not have that much trees at all. So we have some trees were unfortunately broke down because of the storm. They were damaged. So we do have maybe 5 trees left for these apples. And when you then collect it, it has an alcohol percentage of 65%. So you still need then to get it to a drinkable amount of alcohol, which we then put water inside to go down with an alcohol level to 42%.
So it's really water, or it's a completely naive question, right? But you could be pouring, apple juice to make it taste more like apple. Is that something that it's even considered, or it's simply water and that's it?
Yes. There is a bit of the law behind. We are producing an Edelbrand. This means, no, you cannot do it. You could do if you are producing something else, but you would not be allowed to label it and call it Edelbrand, which is the highest quality of schnapps you can obtain.
And this is important because this is actually what you're paying for to produce, or is that it, or is it something that...
Yeah, this is basically, this is just something quality related.
Okay.
So you do not pay more or less, but you get a better quality, and if you would like to sell it, of course it's a price thing. The classical schnapps is not even the same. With the schnapps you are allowed to put something else inside. Not too much. Huh? I don't know how much you are allowed to put inside, but sometimes you could also go down with the alcohol percentage. You could put some sugar inside to get a better taste. Some apple juice, but you're not allowed to call it Edelbrand anymore.
I see. So then if you want to call it Edelbrand, then it really needs to be mixed with water, and that's it.
You're right, yeah. So we use distilled water. This is also quite important, because if you use the normal water out of the water pipe, there is, you have the problem of this, how this is called in English now?
Lime, or?
No, the calc.
Lime,
perfect, thank you. And it gets cloudy. So if you put it inside, it gets cloudy.
So it just looks dirtier.
It looks dirtier. Yeah. You could filter this out afterwards. Yes, this would be possible, but still you need a process. You need to filter everything.
Okay, then you use the distilled water, or?
Yes. This is the normal process for the schnapps.
I see. Okay.
I mean, yes, this is how we are doing it. And this is also, I mean, to produce an schnapps, an Edelbrand, of course it's regulated by law, but still how you are doing it, if you use a distill that is fired by wood, if you distill it 1 time, 2 times, or even more, 3, 4, 5 times.
I see.
It's how you are doing it. And we are doing it 2 times since ever.
So it's kind of a family tradition, right? Like that's how it has always been done, and that's how you will do it.
Yes, exactly. It's a completely family tradition. You have to be fair to say, if we would do it just 1 time, if we distill it just 1 time, our distill cannot handle this. There is too much water inside. The taste is not good.
I see. Okay. So.
Yeah. So.
Good. Pretty interesting. Thank you very much. I'm sure that we all learned something, because at least I can talk from my experience in Spain. We don't really do schnapps or any liquor, similar liquor, at least not homemade. But yeah, it sounds pretty cool. So I'm going to serve you, this is not a schnapps, this is a canonita, so it's not apple, it's orange. But still, I'm going to serve you one a little bit more in your glass, and then we can continue with the other topic, which is something that you started not so long ago, right?
Yeah, you're right. Just pour it inside. It tastes quite good.
Cool.
Thank you.
Then we talk about it next round. Okay, so we continue with our next topic.
Some nice glass of whiskey. No, not a glass of whiskey. We'll be talking about how to make whiskey. How whiskey is even produced. So, as we talked before, we are quite some years already producing some schnapps. And another spirit I really love is whiskey, as you know. And so one day I was wondering, how is whiskey even produced? And so I was checking out some literature about it, doing some research, how this is done. And in the end I decided I want to try this out once for me, just to see how this process is done in the reality, in practice. And yeah, basically it's in terms of distilling, it's the same with schnapps. It's just a pre-procession, which is completely different now. So Vermut, you know, we drinking this nice canonita here. You like beer, or do you like this? Perfect. So the first process of whiskey is the same as you would brew a normal beer. So beer is made out of some barley, so Gerste in German. So first of all, you would take this barley and put some water over it. So this then starts to get a small, I don't know the English word for it, but it basically starts to grow. So the barley seeds, they start to grow. And after 5 days or something, you dry those seeds again to stop the growing process. Now the sugar inside of the barley, or not, let's say like that, there is some special kind of sugar created now.
Is this something visible, this growth? Like you see some kind of green leaf going out of it? Seriously? Okay.
Exactly. So it's not actually not a leaf, but a small, maybe white, like a root is evolving. And there is this special malt sugar created. This is what gives the beer also the special taste. So next step, you are crushing those grains, and then you would mix it with water. But now how should I say, the most part of this barley is not sugar, but it's Stärke in German. So what you need to do now is you need to have some special process going on. And for this, you mix the barley with water, and then you need to heat it up till 70-75 degrees. And you need to keep this for some hours, and due to some chemical and biological process, the starch is converted into sugar. And after enough sugar is created, you would even measure this from time to time. So you would measure the sugar concentration now.
You mean while not boiling, but while the temperature is high?
Exactly. And if enough sugar is created, then you stop this process and then you would rinse it.
How do you actually measure this, right? Because I can imagine a pot on top of the cooker. How do you measure the sugar amount?
Yeah, this is quite an interesting question. So to measure the sugar, you need a special measurement equipment, a special device that is called refractometer. And I even brought a refractometer with me today. So if you open it, you put a small drop of this liquid directly on this small glass plate here. And if you now would look inside, I mean, this looks like a small telescope somehow. So if you look now into this ocular and look into the light, you would see now a line. And this line is on a scale, and this line is, if it's rising up, it's more sugar inside.
I see. So it's really an analog device. I was expecting some kind of probe that you throw inside your pot and then you get a digital reading, but I see that it's not necessary to go that far.
Exactly. So it's quite a simple and quick measurement. Of course, there exists also some more advanced measurement equipment, but this I really like because it's quite quick and dirty. Actually, it's a quick and clean solution, we have to say. But it doesn't matter because afterwards we even distill it. So even if we make it dirty now, yeah, you know what I want to aim.
I know. Okay, so we have the right amount of sugar.
Exactly. And now you remember what's needed to convert the sugar in the schnapps to alcohol. So we put yeast inside also here. So if we have enough sugar inside now, our liquid, we rinsed it, so we filtered it, so all the grains remainings are out.
So now you have some kind of liquid.
Exactly. If we go back to the beer now, what we would do in the beer, if we brew a beer, it's completely the same process until now. With the beer brewing now, we would put some hops inside, cook it once more. This gives you the special beer taste, a bit of bitterness. We don't need it when we make whiskey, so we avoid this step. So we just cool it down below 30 degrees, and then we add the yeast inside, and the alcohol fermentation is again happening. Same as we had with the schnapps. So if the fruits are fermenting, alcohol is produced, and it's the same here. So the distilling afterwards, if everything is fermented quite well, so the sugar is converted into alcohol, then again we distill it twice.
Okay, so then you end up using the same device, or
yes.
Okay.
In our case, the same device, yeah.
I mean, I guess that you could have something different potentially, but I mean, technically speaking, you can use device.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, if we have a closer look to whiskies, as you know, there are different kind of whiskies existing. The American whiskey, the typical bourbon, or even Kentucky whiskey, or Tennessee whiskey, sorry, I now mixed it up. This is mainly made out of corn and just distilled once. Then we have the classical Scotch whiskey. This is then made mainly out of barley, distilled twice. And then we have the Irish whiskey, also mainly made out of barley, but distilled 3 times. This is of course quite simplified now, because there exists more and more detailed details and differences, of course. And what I tried is some kind of Scotch whiskey. So we distilled it twice with some classical malted barley.
Okay. And then you just put it inside the bottle and wait, or you have to put it in a barrel, or what happens afterwards?
Yeah, so what comes out, if you have a nice glass of whiskey now in front of you, you know the color of whiskey. It's quite this dark orange, brownish color. And no, the whiskey is coming out clear out of the distill. So whiskey is quite, there's something quite important if you make a whiskey, and this is the age. So a whiskey needs to age inside a wooden barrel. So you put it in a wooden barrel made out of oak. Also, there is a difference if you use a fresh oak barrel or a used oak barrel.
I hope that by used you mean used to produce whiskey and not used for something else.
And this is exactly the point. No, you use both. You use barrels that had whiskey inside, and you use also barrels that had some other things like wine, for example, or sherry. Right? This gives also a special tasty notes to the whiskeys. So if you put it inside, then you put it in a special storage room or a cellar, basement. Also depends on the distillery. And then you keep it there for at least 3 years. And this is then the maturing process.
You said 3 years, so you also had it for 3 years in your basement.
I also had it for 3 years in the basement. The only thing which I didn't know that the 3 years of aging is calculated for a more or less 200-liter barrel. I had only a 5-liter barrel filled with 3 liters of whiskey. Because the first time I did not produce that much, since I did not know the process, how to do it. And basically in a 5-liter barrel, you can multiply it by 3. So after I put it for 3 years in the basement, multiplied by 3 is 9 years of age.
Okay, for a second I thought that the less you had, the more you had to wait for it, but it's the other way around.
It's the other way around.
So with 1 year it would have been enough.
Exactly.
I see.
And this is because of the ratio between volume and surface of the wood is different.
I see. So you now have a super aged whiskey, or I don't know how you call it.
Yes, exactly. So basically a 9-year aged whiskey, and you also see it in the color. It's quite dark already, like you would have had it for 10 years inside or something. And yeah, why is the aging also quite important? Of course, the alcohol, it reacts with the wood. So there's some chemical process going on. Some flavors are created. But also quite important is the seasons over the year. So in summer, it's quite warm, which means the content of the barrel is expanding, pushing the air inside of the barrel to the outside. So yeah, the barrel, of course, it is not completely filled. So there's still some room for air inside. Then in winter, of course, the air is then, it is concentrated inside because it shrinks, the volume shrinks because it cools down. And so some air from the outside is sucked through the wood inside of the barrel. And especially for distilleries in Scotland, next to the seaside, you have this moist, salty sea air. So this surroundings in this coast area. And so you somehow also suck this air inside the barrel. And if you are familiar to whiskey, you can taste it. You will definitely taste the difference between a whiskey produced inside of Scotland or next to the seaside.
Wow! So it really gets all the flavors from whatever has been in contact with the whiskey, right? So it's not only about the wood from the barrel, but also about the air, I guess, and I'm pretty sure that temperature also plays a role in it.
Yes.
But it's incredible.
Yeah, so a whiskey, if you are familiar to this topic, a whiskey is quite a complex drink. So there is a lot of influence, the influence of the grain itself. So you do not need to take only barley. You can mix it with corn, you can mix it with whatever you would like to.
And it's still whiskey.
Yeah, it's still whiskey, but you need to be careful because sometimes there are some legal regulations. For example, a bourbon is only allowed to be called a bourbon if it's...
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm wanting to, yeah. Mm-hmm. But technically spoken, you could make a whiskey out of all the grains that are available. And they give also a special tasty notes. Also quite interesting now, the Japanese people, they also are more and more into whiskey now, and they are aging the whiskies not in oak barrels but sometimes in plum wood barrels, which is also giving a special tasty note, completely different note. So also if I would put 3 whiskies here on the table, for sure you would be able to distinguish which one is which. You will taste it. The Scottish whiskey is known for also its smoky flavor because they used to dry the barley over some fire, and this gives the smoky notes.
I see. Okay, I see. Regarding the regulation here in Austria, I guess you also need to apply or register somewhere.
Yeah, it's a bit different for schnapps. For schnapps, the license is easier. For whiskey, there is the schnapps license you can get quite easy. You are only allowed to process fruits from trees and bushes, but not from grain or cereals or stuff like this. This is another license. It's a bit harder to obtain, but still, it's not a problem.
Okay, yeah, because I guess that traditionally whiskey is not so much something that will be produced at home, right?
You are right, because Austria is not known for whiskey, but for schnapps maybe. There's also a spirit made out of barley here in Austria or Germany, which is called the Korn. But this is not made out of, how should I say, not with barley with malt sugar, but just with the plain grain.
Oh, okay.
It tastes completely different, and it's also not aged.
I see. Important. Exactly. So I guess that's kind of the reason why, right? Because with schnapps, it's a much more enticing process because it's a year thing. So you have your apples, you have your plums, you keep them there a couple of months, you do your stuff, you have schnapps that year. And for whiskey, at least, even if you have to wait 1 year, right? It's much more than what you would do with schnapps. And also, I don't know about the ratio of alcohol that you produce, but maybe it's lower than with schnapps because you also need to obtain the parsley from somewhere. You might not be growing it at your land. That's what I mean.
Yeah, completely right. Normally, you have some space for some trees, maybe 5 trees. Even 1 tree would be enough. If it's a big tree, it has enough apple for some small batch of schnapps. But to have a completely field of barley or corn or whatever, you need the space. And usually then you are already in the farming business.
So I guess in your case, you actually bought it from somewhere, right?
Yes. So I bought the whole grain, and then I crushed it by myself. So I also have a mill where I'm crushing this. Yeah, this is quite a simple mill where you just have, you have to operate it by hand. I did this once, and then I took a normal electric drill. This was then
much faster.
A better idea.
But then you cannot say it's like self-crushed.
Still I had to.
Oh, you were holding the drill.
Yes, I was holding it, so still it's some kind of handmade.
Okay, nice. Anything more to say about whiskey production?
Oh, there would be so much more to say, but I think we have some other topics to cover, so we cannot even cover the whole whiskey thing.
Great.
Since this is a topic that takes so much time. We did not even talk about how to taste the whiskey. How is a tasting done?
I mean, you did not bring one of your bottles, so maybe once you bring one, we can do the same, but you explain us how to actually drink it.
Yeah, this would be a nice topic, how to taste spirits, how to taste whiskey, how to make a tasting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, let's move to the next one. we are going to change a little bit radical. We're not going to talk about spirits anymore, or at least not the ones that you drink. It's about the Steam Deck, right?
Oh, nice.
This is actually your very first experience with it, or have you already seen it or used it?
Not really. This is my very first time I see it. I mean, I know it from the internet. I know some pictures, how it looks like, some reports and stuff. But I've never seen it in real life.
Perfect. Then I'm gonna handle it to you. This is actually the official case it comes in. So this is really nice because you actually buy it and you already have a high quality case for it.
Oh yes, this is a black case which I'm holding. It's a hard case. I mean, yeah, it's a mixture between a hard case and a soft case, I would say. I don't know how this is called, but I mean, it's very protective.
It's very protective. I think that Valve did a very good, they had a very good idea to directly deliver the device itself with a case such as this one, because it really protects the device. And it's not like you don't have any fear when you're taking it with you. So please just hold it.
Really nice.
And you tell me, does it feel heavy, or is it big, is it small? What do you think?
When I first grabbed it now out of the box, it felt quite heavy. With one hand grabbing it out, it's like, wow, this is really not that lightweight. When I put it into both hands, the screen is in the middle and the control in the left and right of the display, basically like a Nintendo Switch.
Exactly.
If I hold it with two hands, it's not heavy.
Yes, so I was asking you because actually when I had it in my hands for the first time, I was really like, I don't like this. This is way too big, this is way too heavy. I don't know if this is going to be comfortable. But after playing with it I would say it has been my main gaming device for the last couple of years. You really get used to it, and as you said, the weight is rather well balanced. So I don't think it's a device that you play raising your hands. Normally you are resting them, like normally you rest them on your lap. But the moment you do that, you can play without any issue. And it has all the inputs that one would need or expect from a modern gaming device. So please, can you turn it on?
I will try to turn it on. Yeah, the button is here. It's exactly on the other side than the Nintendo Switch. It has it on the left side. Steam Deck has it on the right.
It also plays with my head when I switch from one device to the other. Okay, so while this boots, it doesn't take that much, but this is actually like a laptop. So if you would be comparing it to something, the closest thing that you would find is a laptop, which means that it's actually booting a complete operative system, SteamOS. And SteamOS, it's a Linux distribution, but it directly boots into an interface which is very, very similar to Steam Big Picture. So now you are there, you see it did not take that much, and you are actually in something very similar to the menu that you would expect on another console.
Yeah, it really looks, it still reminds me a bit to, no, it's not the Switch, it reminds me to the Nintendo DS.
I see.
In terms of the menu, because I had put the menu, or I configured the menu in my Nintendo DS, 3DS, in the same way. So you had also the games like this arranged. So I just go to the right and scroll through all the games.
Yeah, actually, the list that you are presented here is your most recent games. But the nice thing is that what you're actually seeing and what you are interacting with is not the stock menu. Again, this is a computer, and the very nice thing is that you can customize whatever you want. So I have changed some stuff. The corners from the games are a little bit more rounded than they are in stock. All my accent colors are actually purple, which is also not standard. So this is just these small things that you really only find in something which is a computer by heart. So I wanted you to feel it, to see it. The size of the screen is really comfortable because it's I think it's not 720, but it's like proportionally 720. So also not a lot of pixels to be driven by the device. And the nicest thing about this is that it's really opening you to play all of your computer games in a handheld.
Well, yeah, this is really some step forward, I would say.
Exactly. You are not sitting anymore on your desk. You are not, like this traditional experience with your computer that you might or might not associate with work. This is really a gaming moment, and it's a device that you can take with you on holidays if you want, or you can just play in the sofa, and it really feels like a handheld with the flexibility of a computer. So before we jump into some games that I would like you to see, just to get a feeling regarding the experience of playing with a Steam Deck and what kind of power you can expect from the device, I just want to explain a few things regarding how Valve did come into this, because there are a few things which are impressive. This is not only very nice hardware, but it's software developed by a lot of people. Many of the efforts are open source, but also, of course, some of them are purely paid by Valve in order to get this. So not only you have the regular input, what you would expect, left, right, joystick, and so on, but you also have 2 small touchpads below, and they act as they would act on a laptop, for example. But one of the impressive things is that you can actually map these trackpads to do whatever you want in a game. So this opens the door to play games which are computer based, that you would need a mouse, like you would need your keyboard and you would need your mouse. Well, thanks to these trackpads and thanks to Steam way to configure your input, you can actually make it work in a handheld. And this is really impressive because, yes, I'm not going to say it is as good as playing with a mouse. Like some games are like Age of Empires, right? It would allow you to use it in a manner that, while it's not exactly the same, it doesn't feel like such a big compromise, thanks to the trackpads. And I want to bring the history of where these inputs come from, because this is not the first video game console that Valve has tried to release. Some years ago, they actually tried to release what they called Steam boxes. I believe that was the name. And those were basically pre-made computers that you could buy. And they would run Linux, so it had quite a few incompatibilities, but they also came with Steam controller. And the Steam controller was the first device where they actually had these trackpads. So this is really the culmination and evolution of many, many things that they developed on the way until they reached this point. So I mentioned the controller, which is clearly like what has been built into the Steam Deck, but also the Linux side. At that point, Valve was trying for developers to also compile their games for Linux. Unfortunately, this did not work. So most of the developers just don't spend the amount of time required to compile for Linux, which is completely understandable from a business perspective. But it also left Linux users, on the cold. I mean, it's still the same, right? Like if you want to play on a PC, you have Windows. That's kind of how it goes. But since some years ago, Valve has been heavily investing into Proton. And Proton is a compatibility layer. So you're actually running the same executables you would be running on Windows, but on Linux, which is huge, because it means that there is no Windows installed there, so you have all the flexibility. Valve has all the flexibility to offer you the complex parts of configuring the system without having to go through Windows, so they can write a much more focused operative system than they boot with a Windows device. And with this compatibility layer, you can run games from DirectX 8, DirectX 9, 10, 11, and it just works in most cases. If you want to install a Steam game, something that you have bought in their official store, you simply go to your library, you click install, that's it. They have some badges that tell you if the experience is compatible or not with the Steam Deck, but compatibility, it's very, let's say it's just a recommendation, because might be that it's not compatible, but if you Google it, you can easily change it by changing a file. Like it's that kind of thing. So just green, it means that it's compatible with you doing nothing. But when something is not compatible, it doesn't mean that it will not work. It just means that you might need to do a little bit more. That's kind of it. So I will ask you to start a game first.
Yeah.
So we are opening a game called, how is it called actually?
Shotgun King.
Shotgun King, exactly. So you play as the Black King. See, this is actually a very indie and very basic game, so there is nothing special regarding the graphics. It's a two-dimensional roguelite game, which I really recommend you to try out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, now I can also try out now the trackpads.
Yes, which act like a mouse.
Awesome. And I really like the feeling if you press the button, there is a vibration. So I really feel a haptic feedback when I press the trackpad down. This is really a good...
Correct. And once again, this is something you can configure. So if you don't like it, you can remove it. If you want it stronger, you can make it stronger. I would say that if you are someone who really wants to play a game in a specific manner, with the Steam Deck, basically you have the flexibility to do whatever you want.
I see. Yeah, so I press the start button and let's see what it's doing. So basically what it's telling me, I get a shotgun. I'm playing some kind of chess game. Yes, it is a chess game. And I have a shotgun. So this is quite interesting. What is going on? Okay, I'm just a king alone. Oh my god, I can now move like the king in chess can move. It can only move for one.
Exactly.
But I can also shoot. Oh my god, I can shoot with a shotgun. Let's firstly just move one forward, like I would do in chess. Let's do it once more. White has a bit of more figures still there. And now when I reach more far out, there is his horse is standing three positions in front of me.
Exactly. So all the pieces move by the rules of chess, right? So it's actually a very, very entertaining game and very original. So I highly recommend you to try it out. But I chose this game because graphically it's nothing special, right? So I'm pretty sure you're not impressed by it. But interestingly, at the very beginning, there was no controller support for this game. It was meant to be played with a mouse and a keyboard. But that did not make any difference to me because if you play on a Steam Deck, you can configure your buttons to do a keyboard press and your trackpad to act as a mouse. At some point they added the support for the controller. I think it was related to when they also released it for Switch. Because of course when you have it on the Switch, you need a controller way to play the game. Okay, so maybe we can jump into something a little bit more graphically impressive. So
I shot down now someone. Awesome.
Just give it a go.
Oh my god.
Maybe at the end of the podcast you can play another round.
So let's go.
As I said, this is actually a Steam game. I just selected it from my library. I downloaded it and it runs. But we are actually working with a computer. So you are allowed to have games which come from outside Steam. So games that you did not install from Steam.
Right.
So here we have several of them, but I want you to open The Sims, the original one.
The original.
And are you familiar with this game? Have you ever played it?
Yes, in the year 2000 we played it. All of my friends and neighbors inside of my area, all of them played. And we were a classical Sims player. We built a house and burned it down. So
exactly.
This is what you do.
Just make them jump into the pool and remove the ladder. Right?
Exactly, and removing the ladder. You know that there is a Sims movie coming out?
Is it? Okay.
Yes, I mean there should be a movie coming out, or they are producing it right now. I don't know the details, but we were already talking about would they also include this that they put someone in the pool and remove the ladder. Let's see. They have to include
They
this.
have to, I agree.
Oh my god.
I don't know how they can make it, but so I have configured the left trackpad to actually be like the mouse. So you can just move the mouse with this.
Yes.
And pressing A, it's like clicking the primary button of the mouse. So you can go into one of these houses.
What I have in front of me now is really the map where you see all the houses. Like this is nostalgia pure. This is hitting me really hard. Like, sorry, I get a phone call now. I need to go home making my homework because it really feels like I just came down from school and went to my friends to play this.
Just think about it. If they would tell you at that time that you would be holding something a gaming device that would let you play the exact same thing but without being in front of a computer. You wouldn't have believed it. Because for me, it is this feeling. Like, I would have never imagined that this would be possible. And I know that by today's standards, this is not a demanding game. But I remember that it did not run that fast in my computer.
No, not at all.
It took quite a while to load, and I actually remember that I avoided traveling to other zones because I didn't want to see the loading screen. So basically, once I was at home, I would stay there.
Awesome. Which is your favorite house? Let's go there.
I think but the thing is, I'm pretty sure the names are different. So the Goths.
Yes.
Lápida in Spanish. So the game, it's in Spanish, of course.
Wasn't this house with the graveyard?
It has to.
Yeah,
yes.
this one.
Yes, exactly. And
it loads quite
immediately.
Oh my God,
like this,
loads.
you do remember the load times.
Yeah.
So the nice thing is that I have mapped the zoom to the joystick on the left
I see.
or thumbstick, so you can easily do that. You can turn by pressing the triggers left and right, so this 90 degrees. So this is a mapping that I created for this game to make it more enjoyable to play on a handheld.
Really good.
And if you actually move here, you actually have a circular menu, which you can also configure, that will let you go into, like build mode, buy mode, and leave. So the idea is that everything that you can do without having to move your mouse there, you map it to a physical control, which is much more comfortable.
Awesome.
So it takes a while to get used to it. I get it.
Of course, yeah.
But still, you are playing a game which was never meant to be played on a device like that. And you see it's full screen, so it's actually covering the whole screen. It's not 4:3 like the original one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just find it incredible.
It's incredible.
To be honest.
This is really awesome.
So sorry, I need to take you back from your youth into the present.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm back.
I will ask you to press the Steam button and just exit the game.
Goodbye, childhood.
Good. So now we checked a couple of games already. One very very easy to run, right? Like the Shotgun King. Something which comes outside of Steam, which is The Sims, and something definitely not that nobody ever thought it could be played with a controller. And now what's next to it?
Next to it, Donkey Kong Country Returns,
which is a Wii game.
Yes. How is this possible now?
Because we are using a Wii emulator, Dolphin, to run it. I actually own this game, okay? So this is not piracy. But now you can run it portably, and you don't have to shake your controller whenever you want to pound, which is also nice. And it works amazingly good. Actually, it's running at a higher resolution than the one you would get from a Wii.
Oh, this is incredible. Yeah. Can I just play the first game?
Go ahead.
Oh, this is really incredible. The graphic, it looks really good.
The Wii actually holds quite well, especially in the games which have this more stylized, so more cartoonish maybe designs, because those don't really matter if you have higher resolution textures or. Yeah, so actually now it's telling you to shake the controllers. You just press X.
X, because you configured it like this.
Exactly.
Oh, this is incredible.
So you can really play it.
You don't need to shake. You just program a button to do it.
Which is actually quite nice, because this game is very shaky. And it's not so comfortable to use it, to be honest. So it would have been great if they had included Pro Controller support, which they never did. I don't know. Have you ever played this game, Sim?
No, this had never played.
Okay.
Actually, this was one of the last games for Wii. Could this be?
I don't really know. I know it was highly praised. So the critics said it's a very good game, but I don't know if it was one of the latest.
When did the Wii U was released?
When
was it released? Because it said 2010 for this game now.
Okay.
I also don't remember anymore.
We'll check. Anyway, I have to say I like the game, but I have not played it that much. So that's one of the reasons why I installed it on the Steam Deck, to actually have a chance to play it. But it works very well.
You're right, yeah. and it's really smooth, so there's no lagging or anything. Yeah. Oh no, I died, sorry. But this is really a cool.
It's fine. And you can imagine, I mean, you can basically play anything up to the Wii.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, so Simon has just put his ear on the output fan of the device. The device does get hot.
I just realized.
It does get hot and it does get loud.
Oh no, I don't think it's loud. Maybe when you're in a complete quiet surrounding, it could be. I was just wondering what this noise is. Yeah, actually, it is like the Nintendo Switch. Wow, really cool. I like it. I like it.
So now we did something from a retro game, not Steam. Then also something which is on Steam, but it's more like an indie game, right? Some emulation. But now I want to show you something which is like, at least from my point of view, kind of what the maximum that you can get performance-wise from the Steam Deck. So now we will open Marvel's Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
Which does run surprisingly well. And I think this is a very good showcase regarding what kind of games the Steam Deck can run. This is more powerful than a Nintendo Switch, that's clear. The battery also lasts way less. But performance-wise, this is kind of in between a PlayStation 4 and a PlayStation 4 Pro. Which means that it can run a huge library of games pretty well.
Interesting, yeah. And so this is also by an emulator, right?
No, this game is a PC game.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it doesn't run directly PS4 games, but games which are, let's say, from that era. But like PlayStation 5 games might be a way too much for the Steam Deck. Unless they are simpler games, or if they are very well optimized, because the issue with computer games is that sometimes they are very well optimized and then they run well. And there are some old games which should run and they don't run because they are simply not good ports. So that's also something one needs to be aware.
Oh yeah. Okay, now we are in the game and this is like a movie. It really is incredible. So the graphic is...
I agree.
Oh my god, this is like completely...
Just move your joystick and just jump. And whenever you jump, press this button, R2, and keep it pressed.
Ah, I see. Oh my god. So if you're...
swinging through the streets of New York.
Oh my god, yes. I'm in Central Park now.
But it looks nice, right? It looks really nice.
It really looks nice. This is like a complete... Oh my god.
It's not so easy to swing and talk at the same time.
No, I need to get used to it, but... this is a good one. You can also crawl up the building. Oh, this... It looks really good. Even if I look directly into the sun now, and this is the light effects are incredible.
It's a very nice game, and performance-wise, it's very solid. This is like the first big game that I played on the Steam Deck, and it convinced me. Because if you can play this kind of games, then that's it. As I said, actually, this has been my main gaming device. I have not turned my computer to play at all, and this is always ready. I mean, it's still a handheld, but you can also connect it to the TV.
You can really? How do you do this? Because when I check this, I have a USB-C port here.
Exactly.
So you just need a USB-C to HDMI converter?
That's the thing. You need a regular one. You don't need anything special. I actually bought the official dock because it's nicer to put it there and connect it, and it also gives you some USB outputs and inputs. But then you can just control it with whatever Bluetooth controller you have. So you can connect a PlayStation controller, your Xbox controller, which would be the PC standard one. You can go very fancy and connect something like a Wiimote, like the Switch Pro controller, if that's your gist. So it's really flexible. I think that's the word. With this device, you can play almost whatever you want. And yes, there are some limitations. Definitely. I'm not saying that this does everything because it would be a lie. I think that the only difference between this and a main console is that with a PlayStation, with a Nintendo Switch, you're kind of guaranteed that the games that you buy for that system will simply run. That's kind of the nice thing about a console. that you are guaranteed a certain performance level, even if, the latest Switch games have not been that performant, but still, that's kind of the expectation.
Yeah.
With this, you might need to play around a little bit more, but it also opens the doors to mods, such as increased textures or any other thing that you can imagine, because the nice thing about PC games is that there are very motivated communities behind some of these games.
Yeah, true.
So now I ask you to exit, one last time.
Okay, let's exit.
Say goodbye to Spider-Man.
Goodbye. Good night.
The last game, Resident Evil 4, but the original one, so not the remake. And it runs pretty well on the Steam Deck. But the nice thing is that there is actually this project made by a Spanish guy. Yeah, just curious that it's like that, because this is happening in Spain, right? And the developers actually went to Spain and took several pictures for the textures.
Oh, yeah.
So this crazy guy recreated the textures, but recreating them, it doesn't mean that he that he sat down and recreated the textures with Photoshop. He actually tracked down where those pictures were taken from.
No way.
And he went there and retook them at a higher res. And he did this for the whole game. I mean, there are also many more. I'm not doing it justice, because this is really an incredible mod and patch. So if you have it on your computer, it doesn't have to be a Steam Deck, just give it a go, because it's amazing. This was actually the first time I played Resident Evil 4. I've never played it. And I played it here on the Steam Deck. And I have gyro aiming.
Ah, really? Oh my god. Okay.
Which, I think, have you played this game before?
Yes, I played it on the Wii.
All of the other ports, so I think this was originally a GameCube game. That game did not have the Wiimote pointer, naturally, and you had to move your joystick, right?
Yes.
So all games outside of the Wii implemented that control scheme.
Yeah.
But here, even if it's not implemented, you can also map the joystick to your gyro.
I played this on the Wii because my neighbor played it, and I was like, I need also to buy it.
I was impressed. I think it's still a very good game. I've read that the remake is also very good. But to be honest, I already had this game, in my library. That's the thing. And if I would have wanted to play this on the Switch, I would have needed to buy it again. But I mean, already I have quite a big PC game library.
I know, yeah.
So it was more like, it's already there, and why not? It's a perfect way to experience it. And also this mod, so it brings the camera a little bit farther away from the main character.
True.
And that gives you a very wide range of view.
Oh yeah, and the aiming, I'm aiming now with the gun, and it's really incredible. Oh,
so you can do a combination of moving the joystick and the gyro, as you would do on Zelda Breath of the Wild, for example.
Oh yeah, you can compensate it. Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, you can do both, yeah.
I don't think there's a better way to play this with a controller. I was playing this game on the TV with the PlayStation 4 controller, which also has gyro, and it was great. So it was a great experience, and I did not miss anything at all. I hope that gives you a sample of what the Steam Deck does.
Oh, yeah, it does.
So the Steam Deck, what you are holding right now on your hands is the original model. This is the LED model.
Yes, the LED model. So this has an LED.
Exactly. Last year they did release an OLED model with slightly bigger screen, and the nice thing is that they also reduced the microprocessor, so it's actually a bit more efficient, and it's slightly more powerful, and the batteries also last longer. So there is like a better version of this, but it's just slightly better. This device comes at 400 euros, but I do really think it's worth it. I actually don't think that they are making a lot of money out of this. Naturally, Valve can sell it to you at this price because you will buy games in their platform.
True.
I mean, as I said, even if you can install games from other platforms, like you can install them from Epic Games, Ubisoft, it's a computer once again.
Yeah.
But the most comfortable thing is just to go to your menu and install it from there. That's how they can sell it for such a low price, I believe. And the OLED model,
that goes for 500, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I would say if I did not have one already, I would have bought it.
Yeah.
Like, I really think this is an amazing device, and I cannot be more excited about it.
Yeah.
Like, really, as I said, the first time I had it in my hands, I thought, okay, maybe it's a little bit bigger, maybe it's a little bit too heavy. I don't think I'm gonna, I was a little bit disappointed by that, but the flexibility that this device gives you, it's right. Unmatchable.
The flexibility, because I also like to, when I set the whole day for a computer in the work, I don't want to sit at home again in front of the computer and play something. So I would like maybe to grab it, go on the couch, or even go on the balcony outside, which I also like. So why not? And this is amazing that you can do it now.
Yeah, and I think it blurs the lines between what console gaming and PC gaming is.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Because at some point, especially with the indie games, I was always thinking, okay, is this a game that I might want to play portably? Then I might get it for the Switch, right? That was kind of my reasoning.
True.
Like, okay, if I think it's something that maybe is very fast-paced, or games that you play, like there are some games that you play 10 minutes and then you leave them, right? Because it's short bursts of games. Then I thought, okay, maybe I will get that for the Nintendo Switch. But right now, I don't have to. Like, I can buy it for the computer platform. I know that I can run it with very high graphics on my computer if I want, but if I don't, then I can play it perfectly well in my handheld. And you have seen the Spider-Man game. The compromises are not that big. Like, it's still a very good looking game, and it controls well.
Yeah, definitely it does.
So
amazing.
What do you think? Do you like it? This is something that you would see yourself buying or getting?
Yes, I really like it. This is something I could imagine having at home. This is really something I need to think of. Yeah. I mean, in terms of, to be honest, let's say it directly. This is something I would like to have. Yeah. It's the only thing which would keep me back at the moment is the time of playing all these nice games.
I agree.
But I think this is a problem we all have.
But that train has already left. Like, we will die, and we would have not played all the games that we want to play.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Cool.
But amazing.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna drink a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you for showing this nice thing to me. It really feels also quite well when I have it inside the hand that long already. So it feels it's the money worth.
As I said, I'm not overselling it. I honestly say it like that. It's the most exciting device I have had in the last 4 years. This is something that you can play around if you like configuring stuff, and I cannot stop recommending it to anyone who is slightly interested in gaming.
Yeah, definitely. Also from my side, a recommendation.
Cool. Then let's move into the next topic. We start with the last topic, physical media. We have just checked the Steam Deck, and naturally, as you know, with Valve, everything is digital. So you literally cannot buy a physical CD game for most of what Valve offers. And the ones that you can actually buy are not really usable because you still need to register them with Valve, which gives you the opportunity to potentially download them in the future without using the CD itself. So right now we are surrounded by physical media that I have prepared here. We have music, we have movies, we have games, we have books, we have magazines.
I see.
And I wanted to ask you first, what is your general perception of physical media? Do you actually like it? Do you collect it? Do you think it'll go away?
Physical media? What is this even? I don't know what this is. What are you talking about? No, jokes aside. Shortly said, I don't think they will disappear. We can talk about it later, but really I like this physical media. I like when I have something in.
Okay, so I think we are on the same page on that. I also like it, but I think that maybe we have different perspectives regarding which physical media is worth it, but which medium, let's say, of entertainment is better suited to physical media, and which one we might be fine with it being mostly digital or I don't know, totally digital in the future. Who knows? So I think with this magazine that we have here in front, called Retro Gamer, I believe they are European. So the magazine is European. This is the Spanish edition, but I do think you can also find it here in Austria, in German.
I will look for this. I never saw it, but I will check it out.
Yeah, so I don't know, did you used to buy magazines when you were younger?
Oh, yes. I had all the Nintendo Zone magazines, the N-Zone magazines. So
cool.
When was it released? I think once a month, could this be? Once a month it was released, and me and my neighbor, we, of course, every issue, I mean, this was our source of information.
Definitely. In Spain it was called Nintendo Acción. And I would say, I think it was also a monthly thing. So this one that we are holding right now, I think this comes maybe 3 times a year or something like that, which is more than enough.
Awesome.
But it's already targeting people like us, because the thing that says on the top left is oldie. Like you're an old person just to want to hold something like this. But I agree with you. So there was definitely a use case for this when we were younger. That was the source of our information and what was the new releases.
True.
But anyway, okay, magazines, we already know that definitely they are not at the same level that they used to be. There are still some, but I mean, if we would compare it, probably, I don't know, like 10%, being very, very generous with the estimation, at least for most of the topics.
Yeah.
I do believe that some years ago, at least, it was still possible to get this kind of photography magazines, like with tips and stuff like that. Maybe those are still there because it's a very visual thing, right?
Yes, this could be.
But anyway, okay. Magazines aside, so let's go to the more serious media, right? So the one that you are supposed to keep and cherish, and the one that gets prizes and awards. Let's start with something easy. So music. How do you consume music?
Yeah. So this is strongly dependent on my physical location. Like in the car, I really would love to have a digital media, because in the car I'm driving. I don't want to mess around with a CD. When I want to listen to some different music, I need to press one button and it needs to play the different music.
Yeah.
No messing around with physical media there.
I get it, and I agree with you. I would say that in any situation where you want to portably listen to music, I'm fine with digital. Like I also don't want to be carrying around a CD with me. It's relatively fragile, so I don't want to take it with me, even if it's possible. So I think that we agree. What about at home? So do you have a Spotify account?
Yes, I have a Spotify account because I use it in my car, and I also have a nice Bose sound system, which is basically just working over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. And so it's quite convenient with Spotify, because you even on the remote, you even have some like or dislike button. So if you have a playlist, randomly played songs, you can press the like button and it adds it to your personal playlist. So this is I really like to. But on the other side, I also have my CD collection. And yes, currently I do not have a CD player because it broke down. I want to repair it now, so I'm not exchanging it. And then I also will play my CDs with my CD player.
Yeah, cherish your CD players, because the ones that you can get right now are not as good as the ones that you could get 15, 20 years ago. And that's the reality. Because right now, CD players are, you know, only the cheap ones basically are still available. Even if they look fancier on the outside, the mechanics inside, they are the same. They all come from the same, and definitely that's not top of the line from some years ago. So do take care of those and repair it when possible, because those will never exist again. I have the feeling. This
I need to stop you right now, because I think they might return. You know why? Because the classical vinyl LPs. In the 80s, when the CDs came up, everyone was like, who needs LPs anymore? Throw away this analog stuff. No one needs this. What is now happening? Our albums are released again in vinyl.
Yes, you're right. And I've seen that. And definitely, I do believe even, I don't know how many years in a row we had, but vinyl records have outsold CDs.
Yes.
So basically, more people are buying vinyls than CDs.
Yeah.
So this has happened already for several years. And I know what you're saying. So it is about nostalgia to some extent. Is it? That's the first question. Because if you buy a vinyl, I guess you do have memories from when you were a kid and vinyls were being played at your home, or you don't. Because I do remember my mother playing vinyls. So there is some kind of nostalgia factor. But if someone who is 20 right now buys a vinyl, there is no nostalgia. I mean, or at least no personal nostalgia for this format.
No, this is maybe just a nice and cool thing. No one has this in my age. I don't know. Maybe it could be something like that. To buy now a vinyl, if you're not like, yeah, this is nostalgia for me, it makes no sense. Yeah.
Because that's what I'm asking, because what you're suggesting is that at some point CDs will have they will be, again, trendy, right? But that's if we consider that it's a nostalgic thing. And I don't know if CDs were ever as popular as vinyl records were. Because to some extent I have the feeling that vinyls are a symbol, almost. It's kind of like the diskette, right? Like the floppy drive.
True.
Like it's a symbol on itself. Like everyone can recognize it. Maybe young people don't know what it is, right? But they can recognize it from the save button.
Yeah.
And vinyl records, they are also kind of like, if you wanna represent how music looks physically, what would you draw?
Yeah, true.
You would either draw a circle and it's not a CD, you are drawing the vinyl, or you would be drawing a cassette.
Yeah, true, cassette, yeah. This is what was popular when I was a child. It was a cassette too.
Exactly. So I'm not so sure about the CDs, to be honest. I think they might be a little bit too close. I mean, they are digital, right? So they might be a little bit too close to digital music for its own good.
Yes, in these terms of you are right. Yeah, this could be. So maybe you're right.
Again, I have no idea. But I just have the feeling that it might be that the renaissance for CDs, that it never happened.
Yes, in these terms, I need to agree with you. Yeah, this could be.
You told me about streaming, right? I don't have a Spotify account. I've used it with ads, I believe. And I see the convenience of it, right? And it's a great way to discover new music.
Yes.
But I also have a lot of digital music, but it comes from even older times where you used to download MP3s, right? And you have them in your library and you take care of them. They don't live in the server, they live in your computer.
Yes.
Or in your iPod. But I never really moved to streaming. And I prefer the CDs in many cases, just because I do believe that many times the author has an idea of what the album is. I do believe that some albums, the point that I'm trying to get across is that some albums only make sense in context. Like songs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 9, 10. And maybe song 7 you don't like, but in the context of the album, you listen to it and you like it.
Yes, it's exactly Pink Floyd. You would not pick a song, maybe yes, you can, of course.
Some of them, for sure.
Some of for sure. But this is a concept from the beginning till the end. And if you say you don't like Pink Floyd, you just have no idea about it. That's the point. I mean, still, you could listen to it and don't like it after, or might be true. But I guarantee, if you are into it, this is a story that is explained over a complete album, yes?
Exactly, my point. And I have the feeling that this is a little bit what happens also with compilations of greatest hits, right? Like most artists have them because they sell, I guess, and people, it's the songs that they know from the radio and the ones that they recognize. But I have the feeling that, and it's the same with streaming, if you stay at a level of only the hits, it's kind of only watching the action parts of the movies.
Yeah, true.
And sometimes if I am listening to only hits, it doesn't matter if it's from a single artist, maybe it's a Spotify list, so it's a combination of them, I kind of get a little bit overwhelmed because it's like too much, every song is too much and it's like super energetic and it's a completely different thing and blah, 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 and there is no overall rhythm. You know, that's kind of what I'm going for. Like with albums, with full pieces from a single artist, you experience the songs in a completely different light.
Yes, true. Yeah, I agree with you. Because I remember when my neighbor and me, we were and still are into Falco, so the well-known Austrian musician, and we bought all the albums and in CDs, and we had our CD player and we played it outside. So we were outside the whole day as, I don't know, 12, 13 years old kids, and played one album after another. And really, it was important for us to play the whole album. Yeah, we had a song that was maybe played twice or whatever. Yeah. But still, this was important for us. And also we kept looking for the other album. Where can I get this? Because there was another one which we do not have yet. And then at some point, we realized that there are albums that do not exist on CD, because it seems they were not quite well sold back then.
Okay.
And so we went even to the Flohmarkt and to Willhaben or whatever, and bought the album in LPs. And so we then digitalized the LPs, and you know what we did? We put it on CD.
Yeah, that's interesting. It shows exactly that there is no reason why you couldn't play the whole album digitally, right? But it's just that we consume songs differently when you can directly change songs with the click of a button, right? It just we change the way we consume it, because nothing that we have described could not be applied to digital.
True.
You could say, I'm going to listen to the whole album and that's it. But it's just not how we operate for whatever reason, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But you don't do that. Like, you can, but normally you don't.
Yes.
You have a playlist that someone has created, or you're just listening to recommendations, right? And it simply doesn't happen, which is
true.
Interesting.
It's like in Spotify, I also created some playlists. I have saved complete albums, whatever. And I have a playlist for songs I like, which is just, I listened something in the radio, I will now put it into this list. And you know, when I play this list, when I'm going home, and then I play this list on random. And you know what I use the most? The skip button. Because, no, not now. Then the next song. No, I'm not feeling it now.
Exactly.
Skip.
Exactly. And the reason is because you like those songs, but there might be too much to have them one after the other after the other. So I mean, everyone has the top hits playlist, but it's honestly speaking not a good playlist to keep from beginning to end. And yeah, I totally agree with that, and I find it extremely interesting that our relationship with the media itself changes depending on how we are playing it, how we are consuming it. And albums is exactly the case. And I guess that with CDs, one could argue that you could simply go to the next track or just loop it, which is true. And maybe that's the thing with LPs, with vinyls, that they don't even offer you that. You know, like that's really like from the beginning to the end, and maximum you can just pull the arm and just put it back. Exactly. So maybe that even forces you more to pay attention and just not skip songs.
You're right.
Anyway, but this is the example in which we have the same thing, right? But we are actually not getting the exact same thing. There are many albums, many CD albums, which actually give you more things than what the digital album would do. A small booklet, right?
Yes.
Maybe some interviews with the artist or the origin of some of the songs, the lyrics, which I always find interesting, and I'm always extremely disappointed when they don't include, because at that point it's a little bit like, why are you releasing a CD if you're not going to include something else, especially nowadays, right? Like you should give something more to the few freaks that we still buy the CDs.
I agree.
But then you have the other part of space, right? And I think that yes, the nice thing about our current days is that you are not forced to own everything you want to listen to, right? You can be picky. You can be like, no, I only buy the CDs that I really, really, really like. The rest I'm fine listening to this.
Yeah, true. And yeah, I think this is exactly the point I also like with streaming music. Like, okay, I have this one song of the album. The other songs I just don't like, so I don't need to buy the whole album. I can just play this song. And this is what I love at streaming. But on the other hand, there's some quite very important thing why if I would have to decide today, from tomorrow on, I can only listen to physical music, like on CD, LP or whatever, or on streaming, I would pick the physical. And you know why? Because it happened already quite often, and I cannot stand this, and no one can guarantee this in the future. I have a song I like. So from tomorrow on, it is not available anymore because of some whatever reason it's not available in your country anymore. Yeah. Copyright, explicit content, the law changed, and I cannot listen to it anymore.
Or the author doesn't want to have it there anymore for whatever reason.
Exactly, yeah. And this is what I cannot stand because I'm paying for streaming.
I totally get it, and I understand the frustration, but I think that we have a false conception of what streaming is. And I've been thinking about this lately. From my perspective, streaming is just a nice radio.
Yes.
In the sense that you can play whatever you want. Like that's kind of the thing. But it's not yours.
Yes.
It's just that it's a radio with 1 million channels.
Yes, you're right.
Your song is playing in the channel that you want. But maybe tomorrow it's
gone.
Switch to that channel and it's not playing anymore. And I think that's something that people is not aware of, as you said, until you experience it, until you really look for a song that you really like and it's gone. And then, okay, where do I find it? How do I get it? If it's gone from streaming, maybe it's also not available digitally. You know, like it goes into this whole thing. And I actually think that the best way to compare it is with radio. Like it is like a radio, just a radio with unlimited sources or almost unlimited, but still it's not yours. And I think this is important, and I think that's why physical media, but I think this conversation extends to the other things that we will talk about, should also exist physically.
Yes,
because
right. I agree.
If you don't have it physically, then whenever something changes, it's just gone, and it's really gone.
Yeah, it's like you say. And I also like to compare it, as you said already, I like to compare it like cable TV. You pay for the cable TV, but you have the selection on these channels, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that maybe the misconception, and probably we are all guilty of that, is that digital seems infinite, right?
Yes, it does.
Seems like stuff will always be there.
Yeah.
And we were of course, companies wanted to sell us this idea, right? Like, all your favorite will always be there, right? You just pay every month and you get access to it. But we have been proven time and time again that it's not the case. We will go into the other ones, into the other medium, just to see some other examples. But here I have, for example, I have a music CD. This is a very nice Japanese jazz CD called Scenery. It's an album by Fukui. It's very nice. And in this case, this is just physical. So it's literally what I would get if I would get my MP3s from Amazon or iTunes or whatever, or if I would stream it on Spotify. So there is nothing more. There is no booklet. Yes, it's red, it's nice, whatever. But that's kind of it. But there are moments when physical media become something more. Here I have a case where I actually was in front of the artist, right? Awesome. I was at the concert, so this album is signed. Yeah. And I'm bringing this up because it's also when you receive a present from someone. If your father takes you to a concert and he buys you the album and you have a great time and you go home with that album, you have immediately created a memory out of that album. You will hold that album in your hands and it's not the music anymore.
Yes, you're right.
now compare this to your father or whoever simply buying you digitally that music.
Yeah, it is not the same. Yeah.
It not only is not the same, you will probably forget about it.
Could be.
Probably. Like you, I mean, maybe at some point you'll be like, yes, I actually have this music in my MP3 folder or whatever people store their music in.
Yeah.
Okay. But I just wanted to bring it up because the act that it's physical attaches a lot of things to it, or can attach a lot to it. Okay, so we had music. What about movies?
Movies. Oh yeah, movies.
I have a couple of examples here.
Yeah, for movies, I need to say one streaming service is not enough. You need to have at least 3 streaming services, and if you want to have not even then you have all the movies.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's convenient, it's easy, but in the end, I'm thinking of canceling all my streaming services already because it is so costly in the meantime. So just take a look on Netflix, no account sharing. Disney Plus is also planning of canceling account sharing. And Prime, you need at least those 3 if you want to have a good selection of movies and TV series. And
that's without considering HBO, right? And there are
there are even more. Yeah. And this is going to be so costly per month that we are thinking of going back to conventional DVDs.
I totally see it. I actually canceled Netflix for the first time this month after I don't know how many years of paying for it. I totally agree with you. One of the reasons is that they don't have all the content that I want to watch. But also I have realized that we have very little time, right? Like we don't have as much time as we would like to watch movies, play games, listen to music. And you know what I mean? Like I don't want to sit down in front of the TV and watch something. I want to watch this specific movie. I have maybe now 2 hours, 2 hours and a half. I don't want to watch the TV. I want to watch that movie or that show. And I have the feeling that with Netflix, many more times I have watched something just because it was available. Once again, like TV. Much broader and wider catalog of things that you can watch, but just like TV.
Yeah, you're right.
And I realized that at the beginning of the year that I don't just want to watch something. I have a list of things that I want to watch, and I want to watch those things.
True.
Maybe I have never watched them, that's clear. Maybe I want to rewatch them, but I don't want to just sit and select something from their catalog. That's not how I want to...
Yeah, you're right, yeah. It's not... I also don't see it as a way to skip time. No, because our time is limited. We are working like 40 hours or more per week, and we do not have that much free time. And if I'm not sitting in front of the TV to just occupy my mind until I go to sleep. No, I want to feel it. I want to go into it. I want to experience it. So I want to, as you say, I want to watch this movie tonight, and this is what I'm planning. Yeah, you're right. But as you say, quite sometimes Saturday evening, we just came home we were out, whatever, and it's now I don't know, it's 10 o'clock or something, maybe too late to watch a full movie, too early to go to bed. What are you doing? Sitting in front and watching something.
The menu, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Seeing what you can watch the following day.
Yes.
Yeah, we've all been there, and I have been checking also, because that's also something that we can talk about. It's the concept of ownership, right? Because with streaming service, it's clear, but we have to repeat to ourselves that we don't own that media. We have access to it. But the thing is that when you own digital stuff, many times you also don't own it. You can watch it as many times as you want if they don't remove it.
Yeah.
Especially with stuff that you cannot download directly. Like, for example, if you buy a movie via YouTube, I don't know if you have ever done that.
No.
You actually watch it on YouTube. You don't get an MP4 file that you can do whatever you want. I mean, I get it, licensing and whatever. But the reality is that I paid for something that I am not allowed to back up. So I'm only paid for a license. So it's like I rented it, hopefully forever, you know, but you never know. Anyway, with movies, I have actually a different relationship, because normally I never buy a movie that I have not watched first. I don't know if this is your case. So here I have 3 movies, and 2 of them are not even opened. That doesn't mean that I have not watched them. I mean, I watched them and I really like them. For example, here I'm holding a movie called Beginners. It's a lovely story. I would really recommend it.
I don't know it.
It's Ewan McGregor, and I believe that you could sum it up. I mean, this is just a synopsis, so I'm not making any spoiler, but his mother dies, and after dying, his father just comes to him and tells him, listen, I never told you that, but I'm gay.
I know this movie, I think,
like I have never been
story.
I have never been like how does he say it? So he says something like, I have never practiced it, right? Because I never had the chance, but I'm still alive now. I mean, now I'm not doing any harm to your mother because she's not here with us anymore. So I want to try what being an active gay is. And this is a great movie. I don't think it was that popular, but it's a great movie, and having it here kind of helps me to, whenever I want, I will be able to watch it. I don't have to deal with paying a streaming service or checking if it's still available in my store. Okay, the other one that I have is called Barcelona Noches de Verano. So Barcelona Summer Nights. It's actually like several stories, like 5 or 6 different stories, a little bit like Love Actually. I don't know if you have watched it. It's a very similar idea. It's a Catalan in this case, and it's also one of these movies that, where am I gonna watch it? Like it was at some point somewhere, and now if I want to watch it, where will it be? It will not be on Netflix.
No,
it will not be on, it's not so straightforward. That's without taking into consideration that the quality that you get from a Blu-ray is massively better than any streaming service offers. So that's already being picky, but it's true. Like with CDs and music, honestly speaking, I don't think there's a difference.
Yeah, you're right.
But with movies, it is definitely the case that a good 4K Blu-ray disc is much better than anything you can stream. But still,
you're right. Yeah, definitely. I agree, and I also like to have this nice selection of movies inside my shelf presented. It has some aesthetical thing also to me.
I agree, and also once again going back to the ownership topic, even if they would let you download the movie, right? Which they do let you, I think, with MP3s. I don't buy that many MP3s. But I think you can still download them because you need to play them. But with movies, it's not the case. Even if they would let you download it, which would be great, and I would actually appreciate it, and I would be in favor of that, because then you do really own the file in the sense that you can store it, copy it, and make sure that you can play it whenever you want. Tell me, what would you rather have? Would you rather have your shelf with the movies that you like, or you want to have a hard drive with the movie files?
Yeah, true. Yeah, for me, it would be the shelf. For me, it's the shelf. Yeah. In the past, I did really digitalize some movies because I was like, put it on the hard drive and I can take it with me. But in the end, used it maybe once. I have no idea. I don't even know what's on the hard drive anymore. So I
mean, I also, it was something very new, right, back then. So I understand the idea, and I'm not saying I would have backups. I actually have backups of a lot of things. So that's not the issue. The issue is, do you only want to have the backup? That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, would you be okay with just having the backup? I know, I mean, it's better than nothing, and it would not be the end of the world. But if I can decide, I would rather have the physical thing.
True. Yeah.
Okay, so we went through music, we went through movies. And now we go back to games, right? Like when we started with the Steam Deck we did not mention it, but as you for sure know, most PC games are bought digitally. Valve is the biggest store and the de facto store on the PC side of things. And the Steam Deck doesn't have any input for cartridges or CDs or anything like that. Actually, if we are precise, it has a micro SD slot, right? But that's just to increase the internal storage. So it's already an example of a media that kind of disappeared. I mean, yes, you can still buy boxes of games, of computer games, some of them, but most of them you cannot. Even like heavy hitters. And actually here I have an example of one of them, and then I will tell you why I have it and why I bought it. So this is Quantum Break. This is an incredible edition of a game that I have not played, but I want to. It has a shit ton of discs. I mean, it also has a book. So,
this is nice.
So it's really nice. But now you will see how many DVDs it has.
This is incredible. How much? Oh my god. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? 7 maybe?
Yeah, and the reason is that Blu-ray is still not a standard. I mean, nowadays, not even DVD drive is standard in computers. But definitely Blu-rays were never a standard. So when they had to release it for the PC, they had to go with DVDs, and then it's a shit ton of DVDs. So, but it also comes with a very nice book.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Which talks about the story of the history of the company. This is Quantum Break by Remedy, a company I'm ashamed to say that I have not played any games from, but they have a track history, and this is something that I would definitely like to fix. I got this game for the computer, so I do believe that this computer doesn't work without Steam. So actually the DVDs are only a shortcut for you not to download the whole thing from the internet. But there is a code anyway.
And so it would not work.
It would not work. It's not like I can share it with you, for example, which is something that I do like doing with physical media.
Yes.
That I would not be able to do because once I register it, it's registered. Like you cannot install it just from the CDs. But the reason I bought it was because this cost 7 euros.
7 euros?
7 euros. So it was literally cheaper to get this than to buy it digitally. I mean, it has been some years already, so maybe now it's in a bigger discount. But it was not. And it has a very nice book, so even if it was only for the book, it would be worth it. The reason I'm bringing this up is because the moment that media is sold in stores, it also becomes something that the market can decide how much it sells for.
True.
If we have a single company which is basically saying how much things cost, like the Nintendo store, the PlayStation store, then there is no such competition. Because if you want a Switch game, you buy it from them digitally. If you want it physically, in this case, there are many other stores, but we know that with Nintendo games, they are never cheap. But that's kind of what I wanted to bring to the table. The fact that this is physical makes it possible for such deals to exist.
True, because there is a shop, it needs to get rid of all the games. There is still some, there's still some left.
Space is not infinite.
Yeah, so special price and that's it. And for digital media, you just copy. You can create them out of nothing. This
one was very cheap, but I'm also very skeptical regarding physical media that doesn't work on its own, like this one. As I said, you cannot play this without internet, you cannot play this without registering with Steam, and once you have registered, that's it.
That's it. I know what you mean. I'm also not a fan of something like that, because when I buy it, this is mine. I will own it. I want to own it. And
I want to do as I please with it, right?
Exactly. And I want to play this in 20 years again.
Yes.
And that's the point. This is what I like with the Nintendo Switch, because you can play the games without internet connection. You still can play them. This is what I like with this stuff.
And that was what I wanted to move next. So you know that with many Nintendo Switch games, the whole game does not fit in the card. And then you do need an internet connection, at least at the very beginning. So the nice thing is that because you're not buying a digital license, you have your card, which means that if you would lend it to me, I would be able to use it and also download the missing content. At least there, your purchase is not linked to your user account, which is good. But at the same time, now we are in this is a perfect example of a medium which is not complete. Like if you buy such games, and there are many of these games, so this is not an exception, unfortunately. Case in point, for example, we have the Metal Gear, this last re-release, I think it's Metal Gear Master Collection Volume 1. On the Switch, you only get the first game out of the three on the card, which means that that card on its own, without the internet server, is nothing. And at that point, aside from being able to lend it, and share it and maybe resell it in the future, why would you buy it physically?
Exactly. This makes no sense then anymore, yeah. I agree.
And I find it very sad because sometimes it's not that you wouldn't buy the physical version, it's just that that's not a 100% physical version, and therefore you don't want it.
True. Yeah, this is also what I don't like. So still, I'm sticking with the old Nintendo Game Boy cartridges because
which we
those
have here, right?
for sure we will able to play in 30 years.
Exactly.
Still.
Exactly. So that's kind of it. And this is also, even if the game fits on the card, right, or on the original DVD, Blu-ray, nowadays that's just the nature of the development game. How many games don't work even until you patch them because there is an update? It does happen with Nintendo Switch. Fortunately, not so often. So normally you can play them right away, even if there is a patch. But there are, I would say, an astonishingly big amount of games that they don't work day one, or they work very poorly. Which means that yes, you bought a DVD, Blu-ray with the whole game, but nobody wants to play that game in that state.
Exactly.
And we are back at the same place.
Yeah. We need an update that it's playable.
Yeah. And as you said, they were much easier, right? But all games, at least, were complete. Like you would buy the cartridge, you would buy the PlayStation 1 disc, the GameCube disc. There was no internet. And therefore, those games were really, really tested, and they were never released, or I'm sure there are examples, but it was not frequent that they would release in a completely broken state. And I think it's a pity, because as you said, you buy a Game Boy game, Super Nintendo game, Nintendo 64, GameCube even, PlayStation 1, and you know that that game is what it is. You know, like it is also much easier to track the state. Like you know that you have the latest version because it was the release.
This is the only version.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they re-released and made some changes afterwards, but that's it. And nowadays it's not. Like updates happen for all games. Even this nice Blasphemous Switch game that I also have in front of me, this came before the last update. So actually the first thing that you get when you put it in the Nintendo Switch is an update. And it's unfortunate because at that point, yes, you have the game, yes, it's nice, yes, it's something, but you would never recommend to play it without it.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Anyway, with the 3DS, we had something similar, right? I think that, thanks God, the 3DS had online, had updates, but they were not that frequent. I think that the cartridges were, in most scenarios, working without doing anything with it. But yeah, that's the state of physical media. So, to sum up, we both like it, that's clear.
Yeah,
that's not what we are arguing. But we also, or at least the way I see it is that for some things like games, it becomes less and less meaningful for them to exist. Because the moment they are not complete, the moment they are linked to a server activation, which does happen, the Xbox 360, I believe, that marketplace is gone. Like you cannot buy anymore anything there. And it's a matter of time, right? Like we all understand that nothing can last forever, but it cannot last forever because it's not in our hands. It's not in the hands of the people who actually own the media. And it's not that you cannot do a backup because they don't let you do a backup.
True. So yeah. So physical media still has its right to live, I would say. And it will also be with us for the future, I would say.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, it will be more of a it will have more a collective state, like something to collect.
Yeah.
For the very few things of people that care. Definitely streaming is a way for everyone to access a lot of content. So that's something that we cannot just downplay.
Yeah.
It's incredible that it's the case. But with physical media, you own the stuff that you like. And exactly, I think that everybody wants to own the stuff that they like and not be told 10 years in the future that you cannot play anymore Super Mario.
Yeah, it's just worthless then, yeah.
Unless you pay for the subscription.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So do you want to add anything more?
Yeah, I think there's one last topic we did not cover about the physical media is the books. And
you're right.
This I can sum up quite quick. I use physical books and I have an ebook reader. And I have to say, an ebook reader is fine if you go to holidays. You just have one device with you. Period. For everything else, I'm preferring physical books because last time or in the last year I read a lot about stock investing books and stuff. This is impossible to read on an ebook reader because in the book there are graphs, there are tables.
I see.
And then most ebook reader, not all, but most are black and white. This is already useless then. Because if I have a graph and that says in the blue chart you see this, in the red this, I don't see anything. And it's also the terms of size. The book, which has the graphs and the tables, has a different format. It is already a bigger book. It's like your magazine here.
Yeah.
You have the space. On the ebook reader, this is really a pity to read something like that.
Yeah.
An ebook reader is nice for a storybook, without pictures and stuff like this. Completely fine. And as I said, I have both, and still it's the same thing. If I have to decide for one, I would take the physical book.
It's strange, but I have a different perspective for books. So, I mean, that we don't even have to argue. If you have graphics on them, if you have pictures,
magazines,
like you need it to have. It's much better to have it in a physical form, right? Like that's 100% the case. I don't think that anyone will argue against that. But when it's just text, the issue with books is that they really occupy a lot of space.
Yes.
So if you are really, which I am not, unfortunately, but if you really read a lot, you very quickly end up with a shelf full of books. And books, I have the feeling that they are a little bit less rereadable, or like it's not an experience that you might revisit as easy as you would revisit a CD or a movie or even a game. Like maybe you will not play the whole game again, but maybe you will just turn it on and see. But with books, you're not going to read just a few pages in between, right? Like you either read it or you from the beginning to the end, or you don't finish because you don't like it. But you kind of it's like a movie, right? Like but the movie, it's a 2-hour 3-hour investment of time, and a book is days.
So, this I agree.
So with books, like I like them, and I can imagine buying the physical books of books that I love, right? But I'm more than happy to just deal with digital files, because that's the other thing. Like with books, at least you get the digital file, so you can then do whatever you want with it, which was the ownership aspect of what we have talked about so far. And I would say that's fine for me.
Yeah, no, I get your point, and definitely, to be honest, I never read The Lord of the Rings, the books.
Me neither.
I want to read it, and a former co-worker of mine said, this is quite impossible to read in the bed. So I really love reading in the bed before I go to sleep. But if you have a book that weighs, he had a collection of all three parts in one book. He said it was 3.5 kilo.
Or 3 parts in a book. That's not a good idea, to be honest.
You cannot hold it for a long time.
Yeah.
He said this is too heavy. And this is for sure ebook reader. For sure. Only a possibility.
Fine. So thank you for bringing up the books part. We had forgotten about them. I was just overwhelmed with this physical media. That's
too much media.
Burying me. Too much media. There is nothing as too much. Oh, yes, there is. There is stuff as too much media. Good. That's it. We have reached the end of this first podcast.
The bottle is also empty.
Hopefully not. I think it's just reaching the label, right? That's why we cannot see.
Yeah, exactly. It's still something inside.
Thank you for being with us. I hope that you had a good time. We had a great time. And we wait for you, or I wait for you, in the next edition of this VermutNStuff podcast.
Also, it was a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you again for this invitation, and hopefully that I can be in one or the other episode again. Thank you.
Sure. Auf Wiederhören.
Auf Wiedersehen.